A Room of One's Own, Virginia Woolf. Group 6, Debbie Arce, Raquel Castaneda, Stefany Mendoza. About the author, Virginia Woolf. Virginia Woolf was born Adeline Virginia Stephen on January 25, 1882, one of 4 children of historian Leslie Stephen and his wife Julia. Only Virginia's brothers were sent to boarding school and university. Virginia and her sister Vanessa Bell were homeschooled by their parents. This set forth Virginia's disdain for the unfair treatment of women's intellect. Woolf bitterly resented this unequal treatment and the systematic discouragement of women's intellectual development that it implied. Woolf, 1957. She lived in a time of shifting cultural and social mores.
Woolf's writing. Woolf is admired for poetic evocation of the way we think and feel. Woolf championed modern fiction as an alternative to the realism of the preceding generation. Woolf proposed a more subjective and therefore more accurate account of experience. She explores the structures of consciousness. Woolf's focus was not so much on the object under observation as on the observer's perception of it. Woolf, 1959. Background on A Room of One's Own. A major theme that Woolf focuses on is the differing attitudes and treatments of women and men in society. A Room of One's Own is a clear example of this theme. It focuses on the history of literature as written by women. It offers an impassioned plea that women writers be given conditions equal to those of men. Woolf, 1959. More specifically, a room to write in and the chance to be economically independent. A Room of One's Own has no set form. It is split into 3 chapters, simultaneously an essay, autobiography, lecture, and fiction. Our new perspective. Our chosen perspective is that of a young female student attending Virginia Woolf's lecture. In our perspective, we will assume that after a brief period of talking, the lecturer gives young students a chance to reflect on her words and assess them for themselves. The relationship of women in fiction. The following are thoughts or questions a young female student at Cambridge may have upon listening to the lecture. A New Perspective, Chapter 1. As the lecture went on, Miss Woolf said, "Moreover, it is equally useless to ask what might have happened if Miss Sutton and her mother had amassed great wealth and laid it under the foundation of the college. Because, in the first place, to earn money was impossible for them. Every penny I earn, they may have said, will be taken from me and disposed according to my husband's wisdom." Woolf, 1972. I felt strange listening to Miss Woolf's lecture. I had never really thought of the women before me and their inability to achieve in academia. It is true there was never a chance for women in academia before now. Even now I realized I was surrounded by only women in a college that would nurture our desire to learn while still keeping us separate from our male colleagues. I began to wonder if these prejudices were simply around in earlier times, or whether it was still present. Was my time at this school still worth it, if I would still be seen as less and separate than my male colleagues?
Chapter 1 Summary. At a lecture she gives on the topic of women in fiction at the Women's Colleges of Cambridge, Virginia Woolf states that in order for a woman to be more prominent in fictional writing, they need 2 things. 1, their own money for self-sufficiency, and 2, a private room or space to do their work in. She then, attempting to share with us her thought process, delves into a truth-based fictional narrative of the research she underwent in order to come to this epiphanic conclusion. How many times, without having realized it, have we women been stopped in our path by men? However, this conclusion, she admits, does not truly result in a solution to the problem of female written fiction, for the problem is rooted in a much deeper history. But she hopes that through this, women would be more aware of the structure they are being subjected to.
New Perspective, Chapter 2. Professor Woolf's lecture has me doubting the men in power. She is right. Why are they supposed to be superior over me when she has made it clear that they do not have that right? Their only qualification is that they are not women. She has made it clear that my world is surrounded by people degrading me. Even Alexander Pope has negative opinions on my gender. Men are just as extreme as women, if not more than us. Despite the fact that women have advanced with our right to vote and ability to attend higher education, we still have to have a room of our own. I don't want to be a slave. I don't want to hide my gift from the world. Professor Woolf, my colleagues, and I have to cut off the assumption that women are in need of men. Chapter 2, Summary. As Woolf is walking through the British Museum in search of answers to some of the following questions: why did men drink wine and women water? What effect has poverty on fiction? What conditions are necessary for the creation of works of art? In her visit in the museum, it is blatantly clear that men have derogatory viewpoints and opinions of women. She acknowledges that the men's ignorance is partially from their education failing them, just as it has failed the women. Woolf wants women to be able to have the same respect as the men, and it includes having equal opportunities in the work fields. All assumptions founded on the facts observed when women were the protected sex will have disappeared. Page 1982.
New Perspective, Chapter 3. Yet even so, Professor Trevelyan concludes, neither Shakespeare's women nor those of authentic 17th century memoirs seem wanting in personality or character. Not being a historian, one might even say that women have burnt like beacons in all of the works of the poets since the beginning of time. Cleopatra, Lady Macbeth, Phaedra, Rosalind, Anna Karenina, Emma Bovary. If women had no existence save in fiction written by men, one would imagine her a person of the utmost importance. Woolf, 1983. As I sit here listening to Miss Woolf, I must stop and wonder, how is it then that after so much literature on the failing characteristics of women, that so many respectable female heroines came to be? Do those writers then have such a respect or admiration for women? Or is it that these men only speak so highly of these women and empower them because they are in fact creations of men? How then do men justify themselves by speaking so negatively of us? Chapter 3 Summary. In this chapter, the narrator gives her last assertion between the relationship of women and fiction. The narrator begins to try and find reasoning for why there are few documented women in literature. Her final assertion: there is no opportunity. The narrator even goes so far as to consult a historian's account on women in fiction, which is Professor Trevelyan's History of England. What she finds is women were not and could not have been writers early in history. In a social context, women were just not given the opportunity. The narrator imagines a scenario. If Shakespeare had a young and talented, brilliant sister, because of the social norms of her time, she would not have allowed to thrive, and her ultimate end would have been death. That more or less is how the story would run, I think, if a woman in Shakespeare's day had had Shakespeare's genius. For genius like Shakespeare's is not born in England among the Saxons and the Britons. It is not born today among the working classes. How then could it have been born among women whose work began, according to Professor Trevelyan, almost before they were out of the nursery? Woolf, 1987. To conclude, we need a room, money, now. Only kidding. Equal opportunity is the key to this piece. To have a well-rounded academia, all scholars, no matter the gender, deserve the same opportunity and resources to thrive.